Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have 5 all-new fall Dollar Tree DIYs for you. My theme today was kind of traditional fall with lots of pumpkins, and I wanted to mix together a lot of orange, light green, and ivory. So for the first DIY, I'm going to be making a little pumpkin wagon sign. I'm going to start with one of these square wood signs from the Dollar Tree. And the frame on them are not great. It's like an MDF wood. So I thought that we could make it look a little bit better by adding some of the cube wood beads from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to go ahead, remove the tag, remove the hanger from this because I actually want this to be a standing sign. I thought that might get in the way too of the wood beads that we're going to add to the border. And this is a fun way to make one of these signs from the Dollar Tree look a lot better. I'm going to leave the wood beads all strung together. That's going to make it easier to glue it on. And I'm just going to start here by hot gluing it on. Just making sure the cord that's wrapped around the last wood bead there is glued down so you can't see it. And I just go straight across. And it just happened to fit perfectly. So I don't have to spread it out or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here. Save the rest of this wood bead garland for the side. And I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom because I want to be able to just fill in the gap between the two. And I was really pleased with how everything ended up spaced on this one. So again, I just hot glued this down, just making sure that everything is good and flat against that because they do like to spin a little bit. And then trim that off, and now I can use my remaining beads. So I used 2 packages of the wood bead garland to do the sides. One thing I like about the cube beads from the Dollar Tree is that they're easier to glue down for like a frame like this. Since they don't really have any like half wood beads, the Dollar Tree, I think these are a fun option. And I really kind of wanted a shadow box look for this pumpkin wagon DIY. So I went ahead and saw how many would fit, and look at that perfect fit on that size. I glued those down. I'm trimming off the excess string once I get them glued down, but I leave it on there to get started, and I just hot glue my last row down, and I'm going to paint this. This is like a natural wood color. I know it looks pretty light, but what I want to do is I want to paint the entire thing ivory, and I want it to be like a chippy ivory. So I'm just going to go in with a little chippy brush. These are some new brushes that I'm trying from Amazon. I did have a lot of bristles fall out. Every kind of chippy brush I use, I seem to have that problem, including like the chunky brushes from the Dollar Tree sometimes. So if you guys know of a good one, please let me know down in the comments below. I just went over everything with that. I want to paint the edges of the frame, which are that darker wood color. And then I want to paint all of the wood beads. I want to paint the back, but as you can see, I did it very chippy. So a little bit of the wood shows through, and I'm going to distress it even more because I like that distressed look. So I also go in there with some Antique Wax by Waverly, and I distress everything. I thought about making the wood beads like a different color, but I kind of wanted it to all blend in with the background. And I really like the distressed ivory look. It goes great with like farmhouse, but it also goes great with my coastal decor I have in my house. And I am just going over and distressing every little thing. If I get too much on there, I just kind of go over it with a baby wipe and blend that in. And if anything's too dark, like it's easy to distress a little too dark on the wood beads, you can just go back in there with your color that you were using before and just kind of work with it until you're happy with it, which is what I did. I distressed everything, and then I went back in with my ivory and distressed it back to ivory a little bit, but with still some of that distressing showing through. Once I'm done distressing it, sometimes it takes a little bit to get it exactly how you want it. I'm going to show you how I built this little wagon inside our little shadow box. I'm going to have a little standing sign like that. For the wagon, I'm going to use 3 of the wood rulers from the Dollar Tree. These are like school supply section at Dollar Tree, and I love crafting with these. All you have to do is remove the little stickers from them, and you have a great source of wood. They do have a little raised panel there in the front, and I'm just going to make that the back because I want little wood panels that can represent the side of a wooden wagon. So I'm going to measure, I think about right here, because I want a little bit of room for a handle. And I'm going to take all three of my wood rulers to my saw and cut those down to size. So I have 3 pieces of wood, and I want it to look like a little wagon cart full of pumpkins. For the pumpkins, I'm going to use some of the window clings from the Dollar Tree. I picked up this one that just has a couple of plain orange pumpkins on there, which is what I was going for this. And I do like the fact that they are different colors too. For the wheels, I'm going to use these jar lids that I found from the Dollar Tree. I thought these would be really fun wheels for my wagon. You could also use the wheels from like the little dump trucks and stuff like that from the toy section at the Dollar Tree, or get creative. I thought those kind of looked like wheels because they even have like the spokes on them. Then I'm going to make it all a little bit 3D. I was telling you I kind of wanted to be like a shadow box feel. So I'm going to use some of the wooden Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree to bump the wagon out. And so I can kind of put items behind it like the pumpkin. So these are the 2 pumpkins that I'm going to use. This one's like a lighter orange yellow color, and this one's like a darker orange color. And I think 2 of those are going to fit perfectly here in my little pumpkin wagon. There is a little bit of an overlap though, and I don't want you to be able to see through that. So I did kind of cut around that because I do need the pumpkins to be sitting closely together, just so when I go to glue them on, you won't be able to see through them. To attach the little decals, window decals, I just put a thin coat of Mod Podge down here all over where the pumpkin needs to go and lay this in place. And I kind of have the spacing of where exactly I wanted these to be able to peek out at the top of my little pumpkin wagon. And it's really important to seal these on top because as you can see, they're very glossy, being that window decal material. But if you go over it with the matte Mod Podge from Dollar Tree, you can definitely tone that down and make it look a lot better. And it's a great way to add some pumpkins to the sign without printing anything or using your Cricut. Now for the wagon itself, I'm using the 3 wood rulers. I'm going to add a little bit of antique wax by Waverly to those, and one of the long wooden dowels from the Dollar Tree there. That's going to be the handle for our wagon. Then I just kind of blend that all with a baby wipe because I was really looking for like a medium stain. I didn't want it to be too dark, but I wanted it to be dark enough to have a little contrast so that I could add some words to my little pumpkin cart. For the 3 pieces of the little wagon here, I'm going to glue the Jenga blocks onto the back. They have that little wood bump out there. I just glue the Jenga blocks to each side, not all the way over to the edge. I don't want you to be able to see these. I just want these to act as spacers to push the little wagon out a little bit from the sign so I can add some things behind it. And that's going to make it easier to attach as well. I'm not going to add any words to the bottom of the cart because I'm going to have the wheels there. So I'm going to have mine say Farm Fresh Pumpkins. And I just went in with my ivory paint pen and I just did some big block letters, very similar to like the skinny font, the Raydon font. It's really easy to do. And then I'm going to do Farm Fresh. This is going to be the top of the wagon. And easier than actually getting my Cricut out and cutting some vinyl. But if you don't like your penmanship, you can always cut some vinyl for this part. It'd be really cute too. And I did have to go over it with 2 coats because that ivory kind of blended into that antique wax stain there a little bit. And I really want that to pop against the wood. I think that looks pretty good and we can start putting this together. So the Farm Fresh will be right under the pumpkins. And just like this, I want a little space in between. And then again, the little jar lids that we're going to use for the wheels, I'm going to go ahead and attach those now. I'm going to glue them on like this. At first I was going to do it the other direction, but I didn't really like the way it looked. It would kind of set it far away from the wagon and I wanted to look like it's part of the wagon. So I just hot glued these on upside down like this, trying to have it even. I don't want like where the axle should be is going to be like underneath the cart. And then I'm going to hot glue the first one down here. And I kind of line that up to the very bottom, the wheels. I'm going to have a little bit of spacing in between the different pieces of the cart. And I just put some hot glue on the back of those Jenga blocks and glued these other pieces down just like that, creating a little bit of a wagon. Now this is the wagon handle. I don't have a lot of room for this since it's a square sign, but we're gonna make it work. I had stained this wood down. I'm just going to cut it down with my miter scissors like that. And then I just need like a small piece maybe for the handle. So I just cut a smaller piece down and we're just going to put that at the very top for a little makeshift handle. You could use dowels, popsicle sticks, lots of different things for your handle. I think this one looks pretty cute. I added a little hot glue here to the back and glued this down, kind of coming at an angle from the bottom, but kind of hidden underneath the cart. And then here's the handle. I just attached that with hot glue as well. Now I want the pumpkins to look like they are sitting like in mossy material. So I'm going to go in with some Spanish moss. I have not been able to find this at Dollar Tree forever, but I was able to get some at Walmart. And I'm just pushing that in there right there at the top of the cart. I also want it to look like the entire thing is filled with like Spanish moss and pumpkins. So I took some Spanish moss and I kind of fed it in between the little wood pieces like that, so it looks like it is filled with those. To make it a standing sign, I'm just going to use a wood Jenga block from Five Below. I hot glue it on not quite to the bottom, but pretty close, so it leans back slightly, and that makes a great standing sign. And then the final thing is I wanted to add something that would look like grass, and I wanted orange, ivory, and green for my DIY, so I needed a little green on this one. I went in with some reindeer moss, and I'm just going to glue this here at the very bottom where it looks like the little pumpkin cart is standing in grass. So I just do a little bit here and there and kind of tuck it behind the wheels, just attaching everything with hot glue. I think this DIY turned out so precious. I really like it. My son is home for the holiday weekend. He helped me pick out these wheels at Dollar Tree and he thinks it turned out pretty cute too. This is how it turned out. My Farm Fresh Pumpkins wagon. Very farmhouse looking and beautiful, I think, for fall. Here's a little closer look of how this turned out. Aren't those jar lids fun? I really enjoyed those. And the little wagon is just so fun. Thinking about making like a 3D version of it too. That would be fun. Hey guys, are you enjoying today's video? If you are, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more DIYs. For this fall DIY, I'm going to make a little pumpkin flower pot. So I'm going to start with one of these little terracotta pots from the Dollar Tree. These are the larger ones that come like in a 2-pack from the Dollar Tree. And then I found this great bowl filler at Dollar General for only $1. I love the colors. It's a perfect color of light green, orange, and ivory. And I decided to cover the entire flower pot in pumpkins. I thought that would be really fun. It would look very boutique. And at first I was going to paint them all the same color, but I love the variety of colors, so I'm going to leave them as is. I just hot glued a pumpkin here, pretty level to the bottom, and then I'm going to do orange, white, and then green. And I'm going to try to continue that pattern all the way around. The bottom here is the skinniest part, so I will be able to fit less pumpkins here than everywhere else, but I also want to do it in sort of a pattern if I can. So I went ahead and glued on a total of 4, and that looks like it covers about half, so I think I can get another 4. So I just kept repeating that pattern, green, white, orange, all the way around here, and just making sure that my hot glue set up really well before I let go of it. I'm kind of pointing all of the pumpkin stems down just for a little bit of uniformity. And there it is. We have a total of 8 pumpkins there on the bottom. We're going to continue building with the pumpkins all the way up. I do want it to look a little bit random, but also a little bit of a pattern. So when I go in for the next ones, I'm going to do the same pattern, but I'm going to go one over here. So I'm going to go one over to the right for the green. And it is a little bit wider here. So I'm going to be able to fit more pumpkins on this row, but I do want to kind of keep that same pattern going. And I already messed it up because I went green, white, and I wanted green, orange. But that's okay. I caught it early enough. I was able to fix that. And again, I'm just hot gluing. This fits right underneath the ledge there of the top of the flower pot. It fits in there nicely. And I'm going to continue that pattern. I'm just putting them side by side now because I knew that I'd probably be able to fit at least one more pumpkin in this row, and I just keep going all the way around, filling that in with that same pattern. I think I ended up using 2.5 packages of the bowl filler from the Dollar Tree. And if you wanted to switch yours up to a different color, they do have different color varieties as well. But I really love like that mint green color for fall. I think it's really pretty. Now for the very top, I'm also going to do a row up here. Again, I just went one over to the right with the green, and then I'm just going to continue that pattern all the way around, gluing it all on. And this fit perfectly. 3 rows of pumpkins, all of the pumpkin stems pointing down. And again, a little bit of a pattern, at least here on the front there where I start. And where I end, it kind of messes up the pattern a little bit, but that's okay. That can just be the back of my flower pot. And I just kept gluing those all the way around. Isn't that so cute? I got the idea of this from like a boutique. They had like a pumpkin candle holder with pumpkins all over it. They were all the same color, but I thought a flower pot would be really fun for fall. So I just glued these all around my little pumpkin flower pot. I think it's looking so cute. I did notice that you could see the terracotta pot through the pumpkins, which looks fine, but I thought maybe I could take it up a notch and make it even more special for fall by adding a little bit of floral moss in between. It's going to give you that mossy feel, and I really like the brown floral moss for fall. I think it looks great for that. So any of like the gaps that are kind of big like this one, I just added a little hot glue and added some of that brown floral moss down inside. And I think that really added to it too, especially since it's a flower pot. I think it's going to make it look really earthy. Any of the like little cavities that were really small, I just put a little bit of floral moss in there. But any of the larger ones like that where you could really see the flower pot, I did add hot glue and then just put the moss down inside. And I'm just going to go around and try to fill up any of the little nooks and crannies that between the pumpkins, of course, because they're round, it's definitely going to have some little gaps like that. And I'm really glad I took that extra step on it because I think it made it look really cool. Now, if I were going to paint them all the same color, like with spray paint or something, like my inspiration candle holder, then I would not be including the moss or anything like that. But I really love the colors and the soft nature of the moss. We're also going to be filling up the flower pot with some faux fall florals from the Dollar Tree. You could also do a real plant in this one if you wanted to. It's got the hole drilled into the bottom there. And I think that looks pretty good. I do have a few more gaps here on the top. I just add a little bit of floral moss too, but I think that the flower pot is ready to go. Let me show you what it looks like so far. Isn't this so pretty? I really love how this is turning out. Now for the flowers inside, since they're faux floral, I do need to add a little bit of foam. I just took one of the square pieces from the Dollar Tree and just cut it down to size here so it will fit in there. Just using some of my scrap pieces to fill up the sides, and then we can fill this up with some florals. I also want to make sure that you can't see the foam, so I'm going to use that same brown floral moss that we used on the sides and just glue that on top of the moss to make that look nice as well, anywhere where you might not be able to see a flower. It's not a very big flower pot, so it's definitely not going to take a lot of florals, which is good because Dollar Tree is charging $1.75 for these now. So I was able to get away with only 2. I picked up this like orange, reddish fall flower. I think it's so pretty. I'm just cutting them into individual pieces and adding them. I think they're fall hydrangeas. And then I also picked up these little green, I think these are hops. And I think that that is a fun variety. I'm just going to kind of mix those together. And I think I ended up using pretty much all of them to fill up the flower pot. I wanted it to look really full and not really compete with the pumpkins, but really kind of add to them. Same kind of color scheme, but definitely very fall coated. And this is how it turned out, our little pumpkin flower pot. I really love this. I have been wanting to make this DIY, and so I was really glad that I was able to make it for today's video. Let me show you how beautiful it turned out. I think those flowers are really pretty. And the pumpkins from Dollar General, I absolutely love them. See how nicely they're painted? They really don't need much. And I think they make a brilliant flower pot for fall. Isn't that just so pumpkin for fall? I love it. For this Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to use some of the rose gold Rust-Oleum spray paint and 2 of the wire wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. This isn't the really large one that they have. It is, I think these are the 15-inch ones. And I need 2 because I'm going to make a cage. And I wanted it to be a fun fall color instead of just black. So I spray painted mine with that rose gold metallic spray paint. I really have been enjoying that color for fall. I think it's really pretty. For this one, I really only need the front of it painted. So I just made sure that you couldn't see any of the black coming through. And then for the other one, it's going to be the bottom of my cage. So I put it in here at first, upside down, and spray the underside of it, that rose gold material. And then since it's going to be hanging on my front door, I thought you might be able to see like the sides of it like that. So I think I'm going to have to paint at least some of the back because I don't want it to look like it's two-tone. So I just flipped it over and at least did the outside edges there of the rose gold. And I think that looks pretty good. I got pretty good coverage on that. And I just set those aside and let those dry. Those look really pretty like that. Now for the background of my wreath, I'm going to use fall leaves. These are the leather fall leaves from the Dollar Tree. I have some of the oak leaves. I also have some of the maple leaves. And I'm just cutting the stem off of them just because I didn't really like the way the plastic stem looked on them. These are the maple leaves. These are definitely larger. I'm going to kind of sit them at an angle. And I'm going to alternate between the two to fill this up to be a great backdrop. Now, if you don't have the leather leaves, you could always use like the faux leaves from the Dollar Tree. The burlap leaves, depending, like the oak leaves might work, but the maple leaves might be too big. Now for the pumpkins themselves, I found these little muted pumpkin clips from the Dollar Tree with the perfect colors that I wanted to do for this decor. The muted orange, the muted green, and the ivory. They do have the little clips on the bottom. I wish they didn't, but I don't really want them. So I just pull the clips off the bottom and I'm going to repeat a pattern all the way around, going orange, white, green. And I was really pleased that I picked up exactly almost enough of these that I needed. And I definitely wanted to do like something similar to like the Easter egg wreath that I've done on my channel, but with pumpkins. So I thought this would work really well for a cage. And I am just going to repeat that pattern all the way around, and then I'm going to show you how I put the whole thing together. This was a really simple fall wreath. I know a lot of you guys say that you struggle with fall wreaths, and I try to do a lot of non-traditional wreaths like this because I really don't like the deco mesh wreaths and stuff like that. They are definitely challenging to make. Now, I noticed that I needed the pumpkin stem to kind of be in between the middle bars to make everything kind of sit properly. So I just kind of moved everything around, making sure all my pumpkin stems were where they needed to be. And that way the cage sat flat against it. But I want to clamp it all together like this so everything stays in place and everything is evenly spaced like that. So I'm going to go in with the little tiny zip ties from the Dollar Tree. And I just lined up my crossbars over here on the side. And I'm going to simply zip tie that tight. And that just really clamps everything together inside the wreath. I'm going to do it here and here on the outside and then up here at the top as well. The clear zip ties are really easy to blend in. And I also have a plan to kind of cover some of that stuff up as we add a little bit more decor to this. But I definitely want it to be tight. So I went around the outside and then the same exact place that I went on the outside, then I also went on the inside and zip tied the inside of the wreath form together as well. And as you can see, this is turning out really cute. I love the colors for fall. Very colorful, but yet kind of muted, you know, with the brown leather leaves back there too, provides another fun color. And I like the variety of the leaves too. I think that really kind of adds to it. And this is the ribbon that I'm going to use. Isn't this so pretty? I found this at Dollar Tree. I don't know if I've ever seen this one before. It's like a burlap with like a very light muted orange pumpkin on it. And I'm going to cut 3 pieces down that are long enough to go around the wreath form. And everywhere where I zip tied, I am going to go around with the ribbon. This is going to help hold it together and it's going to be decorative. So I just glued that to the back of the wreath form. and then glued it to itself like that. Kind of similar to like if you're making like a life buoy or something like that, you would do it. This is going to be the a very top piece. So I went ahead and did the pumpkins upright. And then I'm going to have another one here. This is also going to kind of be the top. And I wanted to leave the very top of it open so I could hang something in between. And I could also do a hanger without these things getting in the way. And this is going to be the third one down here. So again, I just glue it all down, and it's for directionality. I just kind of kept all of the pumpkins as upright as I could keep them with this plan. And I don't really need the pumpkins underneath the ribbon. They can slightly go underneath there, but I definitely want you to be able to see most of them. So I just kind of spaced them out a little bit and added the remaining ribbon to our wreath form. This is what I want to hang down in the middle. This great wall decor from Dollar Tree. The color is perfect. It is this mint green, like fall leaf color. So pretty. I just cut the tassel off the end. I'm going to leave the hanger on it and use that twine to hang it. I like the little wood beads that are on there. They're perfect for our color scheme. And I won't have to add a hanger to this. I can just use this. It is looped. I will show you how I went about adding it to it. I didn't really tie it. I did add a staple there at the top just to make sure that it hung straight. And I'm going to tie it right there at the very center of the top. Well, actually, I'm going to glue it on, I guess. I just trying to see exactly where I need it to be because I want it to hang down like right in the center. And I think I've got this spacing. So what I did is I just went into the wire wreath form like this. I'm going to wrap this around here where I have a crossbar so it won't go anywhere. And then instead of tying it, I just pulled the loop down and hot glued the twine to itself here on the back and have it hang down just like that. They also have the little pumpkins like that, would be really cute. I went back and forth which one I wanted to use, but I really liked that green leaf, so I decided to go with that. Then I'm also going to need a hanger for the top of my wreath, so I just put some twine here in on the top. And then I am going to loop that through and tie that just into a knot to make a very simple little wreath hanger up here. Nothing that's really going to take away from it, only going to add to it. And isn't this so cute? I thought this was such a fun fall wreath. Let me give you a closer view of how it turned out. Isn't it pretty with all of those fun fall colors? And I think that pumpkin ribbon is so pretty. I really love that. I can't wait to craft with that some more. But I really love how all of those colors work well together. You still have the colors, but I love the muted. You know, you're not really going with that bright color for fall. For this fall DIY, I'm going to use one of these 3D wreath forms from the Dollar Tree and try to make a pumpkin centerpiece with this. Now, one thing I noticed though is that my main support piece was broken. And my message to Dollar Tree on this is if you're going to charge $1.75 for these, can they not be broken? That would be great. And then it comes with these little metal clips to hold it all together. So I had never built one of these before, so I actually had to read the directions a little bit. I hot glued this together, but that was not really holding. And so I'm going to try something else. I'm going to hot glue it and then wrap some twine around it to try to patch this because this is the structure piece of the wreath. And so everything is going to be attached to this. So I need this to be strong. So hot glue and twine seem to do the trick. And I thought this would make a perfect pumpkin because it's going to have all the edges, the round edges of a pumpkin, and I can make it into like a basket centerpiece was my plan. So I went ahead and put the second largest in there, and then the next size, and then the very smallest here last. The metal little pins are kind of long. They're longer than I would like, but I'm just going to disguise them in the end because I couldn't really break them off. They seemed pretty sturdy. I'm only going to use one of the support structures like this. I just put it on there like that, and then you just bend the little metal tabs down to secure the wreath form like that. And I do that for all of them. And that really helps with the spacing, especially for making this into a pumpkin. I don't want it to get in the way on the top though, so I'm definitely not going to do it at the top. I'm just going to leave it like that and have the little base be at the bottom. Now, to make this look like a pumpkin, I love crafting with a paper bag. So these are the paper bags from the Dollar Tree. And I've done a lot of fall crafts with these. They're so fun. And I thought we could do kind of like a basket kind of texture on each one of those pieces of the pumpkin. So I just trimmed off the very end of my paper bag and I'm just going to simply cut it in strips. I just have a stack of paper bags. I'm going to try to cut them all about the same size and just cut it all the way across. Even down here where I have the bottom of the bag, but I'm not going to use that part of it. And then I'm going to use these little pieces. I am going to first open them up, rip them open here. So I have a long strip, and then you want to wrinkle it all up and wad up the paper. You want to really distress it to get the look of paper crafting with this. And I'm going to start at the very top here of our, it's going to be a pumpkin. And I add hot glue to like the top part of it. And I am going to kind of simply wad this around it. I definitely still want it to be wrinkled, lots of texture and fun. But I also want it to cover like the entire black wire from the wreath form. And so I just kind of work around that and kind of glue it to itself there on the back a little bit with any excess hot glue, finishing it off here at the bottom. What I want to do is make this look like a pumpkin, which you could just do a pumpkin itself. It would be really cute. I'm going to make mine into a centerpiece. So I'm also going to make it into a little bit of a basket if we can. So same thing with this one. I just took a strip, crumpled it up, hot glued it to the wire of the pumpkin, and I'm going to simply continue doing that same thing all the way around the pumpkin. One thing I tried to do was when I went to weave the bottom of the pumpkin, the first time I tried it, I did try going in with the paper like this and weaving the basket at the bottom with the paper, but I really didn't like how that turned out. So I did figure out another way to make it into a basket. So stay tuned for that. I have made so many fun fall DIYs with paper bags. I made a giant pumpkin wreath for my front door in my last video, and it turned out so cute. I painted it. It was the first time that I'd really painted the paper bags, and that worked out really well. I used to spray paint on it. This one, I'm just going to leave the paper bag. I wanted the brown feel of this, and I wanted to get like a basket feel, kind of a woven feel to this basket. It just makes it look so much more high end than the little wreath form did before. I've always seen these little wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, and I've never really known what to do with them. I didn't really like the idea of adding flowers to them. I guess I've never really seen it done. Maybe it does turn out really cool. I did make sure that you couldn't see any wire there in the back and I wasn't having any gapping, because when you go to glue this on, you can't really see what's going on there on the other side too much. You're really kind of worried about covering the top and the side pieces of this. But again, I just glue it all on and then I kind of even crinkle it more as I go. And just a few more pieces and we will cover this entire thing. And can you kind of see how the pumpkin is coming together with this? I saw this at the store and I just really thought, oh, I could bet I can make this into some kind of a pumpkin during the fall. You're looking for things shaped like this for sure. And I actually found something kind of similar, a metal pumpkin at Goodwill the other day that I need to figure out how to craft with somehow. I don't shop at Goodwill much. They seem to be a little pricey, especially with their Dollar Tree items. I always laugh. But anymore, they might be the same price as the Dollar Tree. And one more piece, and I'll have this entire thing covered. I'm not too worried about covering the wire there on the inside bottom yet. I can always go in there with more paper to cover that part up. But this is the last one, and I just kind of glue that, crumpling it as I go. And oh, I kind of overlapped all of the bag there on the bottom. Then with my leftover like scrap pieces, I added some hot glue here to the base on the inside just to finish it off a little bit to cover up all that exposed wire. And I just kind of glued it to the side panels, working it through. It does have that like little metal piece that comes up from the bottom, but I'm going to be filling this up with things, so you're not going to be able to see that anyway. And I'm just doing this just because I think it makes it look a little bit better. And I just kind of crisscross on there using that excess paper bag to cover the top of that. And just to make it look a little bit more finished. And I just kind of wrapped it around there. I don't want anything to be really sticking out from it. I just want it to cover anything that was exposed inside there. The very top, I'm going to put a pumpkin stem on there, but I also have that wire sticking out here from the top that I need to disguise. And so I just took a little piece of that paper bag and glued that around that as well. So you don't see any of the wire wreath form anymore. So that looks good to me. I love the shape of this for a pumpkin. It definitely is going to need something a little heavier for a base to make it stand up. And then I decided to use burlap for the basket. Now, this burlap roll from the Dollar Tree is too wide to really kind of go around the curves of this pumpkin. And so I decided to make it smaller just by cutting it in half, making a thinner burlap ribbon. And I did go in there and kind of test this out with paper bags for this part, and I really did not like the way that it looked. The only problem I had with the burlap is it did want to fray a little bit, so I tried to clean it up a little bit before I got started. But what I want to do is weave a very small basket here on the bottom so that I can fill it up with pumpkins for fall and have it be a centerpiece. I just hot glue it under one part of the pumpkin and I'm weaving it through, so over and under, to create like a little basket weave. And I just went over the very base here next to our base, and I'm going to have it stop here on the back where I started. I just hot glued it to itself right there. And I'm going to do separate rows. So I went ahead and cut the burlap instead of continuing to wind it around. I want everything to be kind of level with the basket. So I just go in here with another piece of that. This time I'm alternating that next one over here that I'm going to go under gluing it, and I'm weaving the opposite pattern. So if I went under before, I go over this time, and I'm just going to go through and weave a basket. Now, I don't want to cover the entire pumpkin. I really love like kind of the open aspect of this pumpkin DIY. I just wanted to do enough to be able to fill it up with some things. So I did test a couple of different ways. I'm going in here with a third row here, again, alternating which one I started on and just gluing that. I think the burlap works well because it's really the same color as the paper bag and kind of blends it in. It also gives it another fun texture to this DIY. And again, my only problem was the burlap was it wanting to fray on me a little bit. And I just kind of trimmed that off as I went, hoping for no more fraying. I probably should have sealed the burlap with a little Mod Podge before I cut it. That might have helped with the fraying a little bit. And so I'm going to try it like that, but I do end up having to add another row of burlap because it wasn't quite high enough. For the base, I needed something kind of heavy, so I got one of those little chunky wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to cover the entire thing with some brown floral moss. I think that'll look really pretty for fall. I do leave the center open because that's what I'm going to be gluing the pumpkin to. But I hot glued the moss all around the edges and the sides of this. You could also stain or paint it if that's more your vibe, but I thought this would offer another fun fall touch. And I'm really not going to be putting any kind of filler like this inside the basket itself. I'm going to be filling it up with pumpkins. And so I think that will work. So I just glued it all on, trimming that off to kind of give me a flat bottom on that still. And you could still see a lot of the wood sign through there. So I went through and kind of filled up any holes. One thing about that floral moss from the Dollar Tree is it's all like individual pieces. So you kind of have to glue them all down. But as you can see, you get a really fun, like foresty vibe with it. So I really enjoy crafting with it. And again, I just went around and kind of filled up anywhere where I could see a little bit of wood showing through. Then I added some hot glue to the center of it and set our little pumpkin right on top like that. And so it stands up on its own. It's nice and sturdy, and I won't have to worry about it wobbling back and forth. So that is what it looks like so far. And then for the pumpkin stem, I'm going to make that out of paper bags as well too. So I'm going to make it out of 4 strips. I just take them and start wadding them up as well. I want them to have that same like crinkly paper texture. And I'm going to glue them to each other here. So I start here at the end and start twisting those together. I think I'm going to need that 4th one. So I add one more. So I have a pretty good diameter. I'm not going to add any wire or anything to it. I'm just going to kind of have the paper be the structure itself. I hot glued it and then twisted it like this. I want it to look like a twisty old pumpkin stem, and I want it to kind of go off to the side like that. I did glue the individual layers to themselves there so it will kind of keep its shape there without a lot of gapping. Like that. I want it to kind of go off to the side, kind of like that. And again, I did have to glue it to itself to kind of keep that shape for sure because it kind of wanted to fall apart on me a little bit. Once I got it put together just the way I like it, I'm going to trim up the edge and we can attach this to the top. I do have a little bit of the wire wreath form showing there, but that is going to be covered up there. With this, I glue this on kind of one side and then have it kind of like go towards the other side, like leaning that way. And I made it a little bit longer than I needed. So I'm going to trim it up a little bit to make it more to scale with a pumpkin. And that worked out really well. Now, what we're going to fill it with, we're going to fill it with pumpkins. I have some pumpkins. These are from Walmart. I got these in a big bag with lots of different sizes because I wasn't really happy with Dollar Tree's selection of big pumpkins. They come like this. I also got them in white. From Walmart, I will try to remember to post links to these. I think I can link them to the YouTube video too. I got them at walmart.com. They shipped them to my house. So I have orange pumpkins, I have white pumpkins, and then I also want to do my third color that I'm crafting with today, which is the mint green. For these, I got these were the $3 pumpkin garland, the flocked pumpkins from Dollar Tree. You do have to try to get the string off of them without tearing up the pumpkin, which can be a little bit challenging, but we're going to try to make that work. I had 3 of the orange, I had 3 of the white, and so I'm going to do 3 of the mint green, I think. And I did have some difficulty getting these off. I don't know why they have those glued in there so well. I guess to try to make it not fall apart, but the pumpkin itself is so cute with that flocked material, and the color is perfect. Some of them came apart a little bit easier than others, like that one did. And that's when I realized, they're all falling out. So I didn't do my basket high enough. Again, I wanted it to not really look like the whole thing is covered with a basket, but it's definitely going to need another row of the burlap to be able to hold 9 pumpkins inside for sure. I tried it with less pumpkins and I didn't really like it as well. So definitely going to add to this, which is no problem. I can just use some more of the burlap roll and cut that down to size. And again, you could really use any kind of ribbon for this too. And I'm thinking even rope might work as well if you don't have any burlap available. But I'm going to go in there and go in with just one more row here. So I think I had done 3 before, so a total of 4. And again, just gluing it on the back of one, alternating. And again, I still get that open pumpkin concept that I was going for this, but I definitely need the functionality of the sides so the pumpkins don't fall all over the table every time somebody breathes on it. So that should solve that problem. The other thing, I noticed the pumpkins are really white and I wanted them to be ivory. So I just went over them with 1 coat of ivory paint just to make these go with my color scheme a little bit better. I do like that the pumpkin stems on these are already kind of distressed. I like that look. And I like that the little orange pumpkins are kind of two-tone too. I think that's really cute. And I love how all these colors work together. So I took the 3 white ones, just painted them ivory, which was definitely easy to do since they were already white. I was just disappointed with the Dollar Tree Plus's price on their medium-sized pumpkins. And so that is why I went through Walmart to try to get some bigger foam pumpkins because I wasn't having any luck at Dollar Tree or Dollar General this year. They just want too much for them, I think. Now to fill it up, let's test out our little higher basket and see if it's going to work better this time with our 9 pumpkins. And I'm trying to alternate the colors as I add them in there so it looks like a good variety of colors, and that works so much better. I'm going to finish my little pumpkin basket off with some fall leaves here at the top instead of a pumpkin leaf. I'm going to use this fall garland. It has some beautiful oak leaves on there, and I just left them together like that, hot gluing that to the pumpkin stem so I have a little orange leaf coming off both sides like that. I think that looks perfect. And this DIY is complete, our little pumpkin basket using that 3D wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Let me show you how this turned out. The little paper bag pumpkin, so cute. And I love the fact that I can use this as a centerpiece. It's really kind of large and it's filled with pumpkins for fall, which I love. And so many fun little details to this. Isn't that so cute? I really enjoy how that turned out. For this DIY, I'm using 2 pumpkins. Those are also from Walmart. Those came with my orange ones. And 2 of the LED taper candles from the Dollar Tree. I've never used these before. They're battery operated candles. So I thought that would be safer using some foam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. But I wanted to do some candlesticks for my dining table for fall. I'm going to take these 2 pumpkins. You could also use pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. They have ones that are very similar size. These just came in the big packages of pumpkins that I got. And I am going to put some batteries in these. They take 2 of the AAA batteries and they turn on and they flicker, which is really cool. So I'm going to try to incorporate that into my design for candle holders, that I'm going to need to turn them on, because I don't want to be able, I don't want to have to take the candles out to turn them on and off. And so I think that that will work well. Now, these are the pumpkins, and I kind of tried to use a pen to put some indentations where the opening needs to be, and it's really just the very top of these pumpkins. It worked out really well. So I just took a razor blade and I cut a circle here at the top, and I'm going to cut out just a small little opening here to add our candles down in there. So I want it to be very snug though. The snugness is important because that's going to turn the light on and off when I turn it and turn it off like that. That is what I want, but I don't want you to be able to see that little plastic screw cap on the end. So I did go a little bit deeper with this so I can push it down into the pumpkin a little bit more. Now, these pumpkins came with my orange pumpkins. I don't know why they're painted so red. We're going to paint them to go more with our color scheme. And so I thought this would be a good project for these. I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing here on the second pumpkin. I just cut through the skin of it, pull the flap out, and then I'm just going to cut a little cavity out inside there. Again, I need it to be very snug, so I definitely want to make sure that the hole's not too big, so I kind of test it as I go. I think that's going to work. Okay, so for the next step is I don't want them to be wobbly. They are foam, they're very lightweight, and so I thought I needed to add some kind of a weight to the bottom. And so what I'm going to do is cut a little flap here in the bottom of the pumpkins where you're not going to be able to see it, and fill it up with a weight. You could use washers, different things like that. I didn't have anything available, but I did have some Dollar Tree rocks or stones, so I'm going to try that. And I think that's going to work. It's going to weigh down the bottom, definitely make it a lot sturdier. So I carved out a little opening big enough to do like 3 pebbles inside. And then I just glued the flap closed back on side. You would never know, but we have a little weighted pumpkin now, so it won't fall over whenever somebody touches the table or anything like that. And I want to do a matching set. The candles are the same size. The pumpkins are the same size. So I can do 1 on each end of my table. So the same thing, I cut a little flap on the bottom, added 3 stones, and hot glued it back together. We are going to paint these to make these more my color scheme. I was going for that orange, green, and ivory theme, so we're going to do that on these candles as well. I mixed a little pumpkin orange together with some ivory paint, and we're going to add some baking soda to this because I think that's going to give me a great texture to make these look like kind of real pumpkins. I don't want them to be all shiny and glossy. I may have added too much baking soda, so let me add a little bit more paint here. It was a little too thick. And I'm just going to use one of these little stencil daubers to paint these. These stencil daubers, you can get them at Dollar Tree, but I go through them so much. I have been ordering them by the case on Amazon, and I think they're probably cheaper that way. I'm going to try to make sure I add those to my Amazon shop that's linked in the description of my video because they work so great for crafting. I love these. And I am going all over the pumpkin. I did make sure to get all of the little recesses on the side of the pumpkin as well with this first coat so I can cover up all the colors that were on there originally. I wanted to make these look like a soft orange pumpkin with a little bit of green shading in between each one of the sections. I definitely want it to still be like a two-tone pumpkin. I think that's going to give it a lot of character, but I definitely want orange to be most of it. So same thing here for my second pumpkin. I just start at the bottom and I go all over, just sponging that orange paint over it. The baking soda gave it a really great texture, and I think it gave me some better coverage too, because I didn't have any trouble at all covering up those bright red colors that were on the pumpkin before. I'm not going to add any pumpkin there to the opening. I don't want anything to interfere with my tight fit I have there for the candles. So we have two little orange pumpkins. Now I also wanted to see if I could paint the battery operated candles. They're like a grayish white. They really look like plastic and I wanted them to look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to go over mine with ivory acrylic, just sponging that all the way on. Just trying to make sure that I don't get any on the very tip there where the battery operated candle is. And I'm really glad I decided to paint these because they look so much better than they did before. Look at the difference between the painted one and the other one because it was just a very glossy grayish white color. I did not enjoy that one at all. But I just went ahead and touched this up using a tiny brush at the very top here to get that top row without getting any paint on the little bulb itself. And I was really impressed with these candles. I will definitely be on the lookout for these at Dollar Tree again because they were really fun to craft with. And sometimes you're using, makeshift candle holders like this that it's not really safe to use a real candle in. And so this is a fun option. And painting them definitely made them look even fancier. If you wanted to get really fancy, you could even add some shapes to the candle as well, like with your Cricut or your paint pen or something like that. I just wanted some solid ivory ones for this DIY. And so, again, I just went over the whole thing with the sponge and some ivory paint and set those aside to start drying. Now, the pumpkins did a pretty good job. I did add a second coat, but only kind of to the outside here of the pumpkin to really make that orange shine and completely cover everything that was there before. So I just went over it with a slight second coat there on both of the pumpkins. And I love that color. I think the color turned out really nice. Nice soft orange color. And I'm going to do the same thing here for the second one. Now, I was telling you that I'm going to make these like a two-tone pumpkin. A lot of times when you see real pumpkins, they're more than one color. Like they have like almost a green, mossy looking blotchiness going down each one of the panels of the pumpkin. And so I'm going to try to recreate that look with some leafy green acrylic and a little sponge brush. I'm going to try to make it look like that. Now, the sponge brush was hit or miss. I think a small paintbrush might work better. I did kind of go back and forth because as you can see, the first one went on really light. The second row went on really bold. So I'm going over it with a baby wipe and just blotting it because I don't want too much and trying to add as little as possible when I go to add it. But kind of using the edge of the little stencil daubers didn't work out that well for me. Maybe like a regular sponge brush with like a pointed tip would work better. And I just kind of went in each one of the little pieces here of the pumpkin, added that green color, and then blended it together with my baby wipe. I don't want to cover up the orange at all. I just want to kind of add to it with the two-tone effect. And I'm really glad I did that because I think this made these look so much prettier, made them look like real pumpkins. Very cute. I didn't go all the way to the top here, so I'm going to kind of touch that up a little bit there on the top. And again, a small paintbrush might work for this as well. I did struggle a little bit. I was wanting that sponged look, which was why I was using the sponge for this. But sometimes it just went on really heavy, kind of like it did there. Kind of the same thing that happened on the first one, where the second one went on extremely heavy. But that's okay. I can kind of wipe that off because I'm working while the paint is still wet. But again, just adding that two-tone texture. Both of these pumpkins have like a larger bump out part of the pumpkin like that. And I'm just going to make sure that's kind of like towards the back of my candle when I display them. But it doesn't really matter. And again, I just finished this up. This is what it looked like if you used a brush. So that might be a little bit easier way, a little bit less paint. I'm having a problem with a little bit too much paint going on there, but I was able to make it work. Look how cool they look, the shaded little pumpkins. Now we have our candles that we painted. I'm going to add these to the pumpkin candle holders. And the great thing about these is to turn them on, all you have to do is twist them. Isn't this so cool? I love how this set of candle holders turned out and the candles too. Let me show you what they look like during the day. Here they are, our little ivory candles. And they flicker as well, which is great for a battery operated candle to flicker like a real candle. And the pumpkins from Walmart that we painted the orange and green. I love the shading on those. Let me show you what they look like lit up at night. Again, really pretty. I think these are going to look really great on my table for each side of my centerpiece. And of course, I'm starting to decorate for fall. I know fall hasn't officially started yet, but we're going with it. And this is how they turned out. And let me show you the flicker as well to kind of get the vibe of how these candles turned out. Isn't that so cute? I think they're really pretty for electric candles. And now it's time for the final reveal. Thank you so much for watching today. Please let me know which DIY was your favorite down in the comments below. Don't forget to check me out on all social media. My handle is Crafty Beach on YouTube, and this is a QR code if you would like to buy me a copy. Enjoy the final reveal.
One way to see, one way to know, is never look back and just letting it go. Your heart is a drum, you're biting your tongue, hoping to reach out and touch the soul who is lost in winter and frost, enthusiastic summer's gone. It's moved on in rolls the dawn, hoping to lift you off the ground, but you won't let go, not this time around. Hopelessly there when you're not here. It doesn't matter as long as you're true, true to your heart, true to the art of holding the hands of a lonely soul who is lost in winter and frost, enthusiastic summer's gone. It's moved on in rolls of dawn, hoping to lift you off the ground, but you won't let go, not this time around. They don't know why they're falling down. They don't know when they'll hit the ground. As far as my eyes can see, you'll always care so tenderly for souls who are lost in winter and frost, enthusiastic summer's gone. It's moved on in rolls the dawn, hoping to lift you off the
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's fall crafting video. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to all of my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you to Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, Maria Cruz Pagan, Pal Puppy Life, Renee Albanese, Mindy Hupp, and Jenny. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Bum member, all you have to do is hit the join button next to today's video. You're going to get early ad-free access to my content here on YouTube, a badge next to your name when you comment down below, and a shout out in every video. It's $4.99 a month, and you're free to cancel at any time. We would also love to see your DIYs. Make sure to share your DIYs with us. We would love to see them. We have a private Facebook group linked in the description of today's video, and that is a great place to show off what you've been crafting. Would you like even more fall crafting inspiration? Be sure to check out one of these fall DIY videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting.